When we talk about becoming the best of the best, it's tempting to jump straight to the flashy stuff, the advanced strategies, the cutting-edge hacks, the secret formulas that promise instant success. But here's the truth. None of that matters if you haven't mastered the fundamentals. Fundamentals are not the exciting part, but they are the foundation upon which greatness is built. And foundations don't make headlines, but they decide whether the structure stands or collapses. Think about it in any domain: sports, business, art, even relationships. The most successful athletes in the world still practice the same drills they learned as children. The most impactful leaders continue to refine the same basic principles of discipline and communication. And the most skilled musicians return over and over again to scales, rhythm, and breath control. Mastery doesn't begin at the top of the mountain. It begins at the bottom with a commitment to doing the simple things extraordinarily well. But here's the psychological trap most people fall into. They confuse novelty with progress. Because something feels new, they assume it's more advanced, more important, or more valuable. But progress is not about how many new things you can add to your plate. It's about how deeply you can internalize the essentials. Think of it like pouring water into a cup. If the cup is cracked because the fundamentals are weak, it doesn't matter how much you pour in, nothing holds. The basics are what seal the cup. Let's break it down even further. Mastering fundamentals is about three things: clarity, repetition, and embodiment. Clarity means you actually understand the principles at play. Repetition means you practice them so often that they become second nature. And embodiment means you don't just know them intellectually. You live them automatically and without hesitation. For example, in business, one fundamental is value creation. If you don't understand how to create value for others, no advanced marketing tactic will save you. You might get attention, but you won't keep it. Another fundamental is communication. If you can't clearly articulate your vision, you'll always be stuck convincing instead of inspiring. And in personal growth, a fundamental is discipline. Without discipline, all the self-help in the world is nothing more than entertainment. Now, here's where the philosophical depth comes in. Fundamentals are not just actions. They are truths that reflect how the world actually works. Gravity doesn't stop being gravity because you learned advanced physics. Likewise, principles like consistency, integrity, and focus don't lose power just because you've studied advanced strategies. Fundamentals are reality-based. They are aligned with how life actually functions. When you master them, you're not fighting against reality, you're cooperating with it. And that's why the best of the best always seem to make things look effortless. It's not because they've skipped the basics. It's because they've absorbed them so deeply that what looks simple is actually profound. So the real question becomes, are you willing to repeat the boring things long enough for them to transform you? Most people won't. Most people chase after the shiny object, hoping to bypass the grind. But the irony is that mastery comes from falling in love with repetition. The more you repeat, the more your mind, body, and spirit align with the principle. Repetition is not punishment. Here's the doorway to freedom. Here's an example to make it tangible. Let's say you're learning to play piano. At first, scales feel tedious. You want to skip ahead to the complex piece that sounds impressive. But if you discipline yourself to practice scales daily, something happens. Your fingers begin to move without conscious thought. Muscle memory develops. Suddenly, when you tackle that advanced piece, it flows, not because you learned something new, but because you built strength in the basics. This is the same in business, in leadership, in personal growth, in anything. Mastery is the result of deep familiarity with fundamentals, but there's also a deeper identity shift here. When you commit to the basics, you're saying something about who you are. You're saying, I'm not looking for shortcuts. I'm not chasing quick wins. I'm committed to becoming the kind of person who deserves to win at the highest level. Because let's be honest, if you skip the fundamentals, even if you achieve success, it will be fragile. It won't last, but when you master the basics, your success becomes inevitable because it rests on principles that don't change. And let me make this personal. If you want to be the best of the best, ask yourself this now. What are the fundamentals in your field, in your life that you've been neglecting? Where have you been chasing novelty instead of depth? What daily, unglamorous disciplines have you avoided, thinking they were beneath you? Because the truth is, those very disciplines are the keys to your breakthrough. At the end of the day, the fundamentals are not just steps to success. They are the test of whether you're serious about greatness. Anyone can chase the spotlight, but only the few are willing to practice in the dark long before anyone is watching. And that's the difference between those who talk about being the best and those who actually become the best of the best. So here's the takeaway: greatness is built in the basics. Master them, repeat them, embody them until they become who you are. Because the foundation you build today is the future you stand on tomorrow. If mastering the fundamentals gives you the foundation, then relentless consistency is what builds the structure. Because greatness isn't about doing something impressive once. It's about doing the right things over and over again until the results become undeniable. The best of the best don't rise because they had one great day. They rise because they stacked thousands of ordinary days, executed with extraordinary commitment. And that's where most people stumble. Everyone wants the reward, but few are willing to embrace the rhythm of repetition. It's not that they don't know what to do. It's that they don't do it long enough, often enough, or well enough for it to matter. They start with enthusiasm, but enthusiasm fades. Life gets busy. Emotions fluctuate. Distractions multiply. And so they stop, restart, pivot, or give up altogether. But consistency is the filter that separates the serious from the casual. Consistency is the proof of desire. Now, let's go deeper into the psychology behind this. Human beings are wired for instant gratification. We crave quick results because our brains reward us with dopamine when we see immediate progress. That's why it feels so good to start something new. But the brain also punishes us when results take longer to appear. That delay creates frustration, and frustration breeds excuses. So most people quit, not because the strategy didn't work, but because they didn't stay long enough for the strategy to bear fruit. The soil was good, the seed was good, but they never watered it consistently enough for it to grow. Consistency, then, is not just a habit. It's a philosophy of life. It's the belief that what you do repeatedly matters more than what you do occasionally. It's the recognition that greatness is cumulative, not instant. And that's why it feels so slow, because the first 100 repetitions look like nothing is happening. The first 1,000 hours feel invisible, but then one day something shifts, the breakthrough comes, and from the outside, it looks like success happened suddenly, when in reality it was the compounded result of relentless consistency. Think about it in terms of the gym. You don't get fit from one workout. You don't even get fit from 1 month of workouts. It's the repeated, consistent application of pressure over time that transforms the body. The same is true for the mind, for your skills, for your business, for your finances, for your character. Everything you want in life comes from sustained effort applied over time. Not bursts of effort, not random effort, but sustained effort. And here's the philosophical truth that most people overlook. Consistency is not about intensity, it's about identity. Anyone can be intense for a moment, but only those who see themselves differently will remain consistent over years. The question is not, can I push hard today? The question is, who am I becoming by what I do every day? If you see yourself as someone who is disciplined, someone who honors commitments, someone who is unstoppable, then consistency isn't forced. It flows from who you are. But here's the paradox. Consistency is both the easiest and the hardest thing in the world. Easy because the daily actions themselves are rarely complicated. Hard because it requires patience, and patience is rare in a world addicted to speed. To be consistent, you have to be willing to delay gratification. You have to trust the process when the results are invisible. You have to believe that each small action matters, even when it doesn't feel like it does. And that's why consistency is a test of faith. Not religious faith necessarily, but the faith that what you are doing now will produce something greater later. Every consistent action is a vote for your future. Every day you show up, you're casting a ballot in favor of the life you want to live. Skip too many days, and you start voting against yourself. The best of the best simply cast more votes than everyone else. Now let's bring it closer. Ask yourself, what would your life look like if you simply stuck to the disciplines you already know you should be doing? What if you stopped starting over? What if you took all that energy you waste on resets, on fresh starts, and simply kept building from where you are? Imagine the compound effect of 5 years of unbroken commitment. Imagine 10 years. That's how legends are made. Not by being extraordinary once, but by being consistent always. And let's be clear, consistency doesn't mean perfection. You will stumble, you will fall, but consistency means you get back up faster than you fall. It means you refuse to let one mistake become two, and two mistakes become a lifestyle. Consistency isn't about never missing, it's about never quitting. At the end of the day, consistency is the quiet force behind every visible success. It's the reason some people rise while others stall. It's the difference between dabblers and masters, between talkers and doers, between dreamers and achievers. So remember this, greatness is not built in a moment of inspiration. Greatness is built in the discipline of repetition. If you want to be the best of the best, commit not just to starting strong, but to finishing stronger, because consistency is what makes ordinary people extraordinary. By now, we've established that greatness begins with fundamentals and grows through relentless consistency. But there's another piece of the equation that separates those who rise to the top from those who stop halfway in: how you respond to failure. Because the truth is, if you're serious about becoming the best of the best, you will fail often and sometimes painfully. The question isn't whether failure will come. The question is what you'll do with it when it does. Most people treat failure as a stop sign. They hit a wall, and instead of pushing through, they retreat. They assume the wall is proof that they're not capable, not talented, not worthy. But the best of the best see failure differently. They see it as a mirror. Failure doesn't just show you what you lack, it shows you exactly what you need to grow. It's not the end of the process, it's part of the process. Let's go deeper. Psychologically, failure is one of the most powerful teachers you'll ever encounter because it cuts through illusions. Success can deceive you. It can make you think you're better than you are. But failure strips away the masks. It shows you the raw truth about your preparation, your discipline, your resilience. And truth is always more valuable than comfort because you can only grow from what you're willing to see clearly. Now, philosophically, failure is not the opposite of success. It's the soil from which success grows. Every meaningful breakthrough, every innovation, every extraordinary achievement in history is littered with failures behind it. Thomas Edison didn't fail 1,000 times in inventing the light bulb. He discovered 1,000 ways it didn't work. Michael Jordan missed more shots than most players ever took, yet he's remembered as the greatest. The pattern is clear. Failure is not a disqualifier, it's a qualifier. It tests whether you're willing to pay the price for greatness. Here's why this matters. If you're afraid of failure, you'll avoid the very challenges that could elevate you. You'll play small, stick to the safe zone, and settle for mediocrity. And mediocrity is comfortable, but it is never fulfilling. The best of the best don't avoid failure. They pursue challenges so big that failure becomes inevitable because they know that every failure carries within it the seed of growth. But growth doesn't happen automatically. You have to extract the lesson. That's where reflection comes in. When you fail, don't just ask, why me? Ask, what is this teaching me? What part of my preparation was weak? Where did I stop short? What discipline did I neglect? Failure is feedback, and feedback is fuel. If you don't process it, you repeat it. But if you process it deeply, you transform it into wisdom. Let's make this practical. Imagine you start a business and it collapses in a year. Most people would take that as proof they're not cut out for entrepreneurship. but the best of the best would dissect it. Did you fail because the idea was bad or because you didn't understand your customer? Did you fail because the market rejected you or because your execution lacked consistency? Each answer is a lesson. Each lesson is a stepping stone. That same failure, seen through the right lens, becomes your advantage the next time you try. And here's the paradox. You'll find the more you embrace failure, the less power it has over you. Fear of failure is what paralyzes most people, but once you've failed enough times and seen yourself rise again, failure loses its sting. You stop seeing it as a personal indictment and start seeing it as a natural part of the journey. That's when you become dangerous, because you're no longer controlled by fear. Now let's bring it back to identity. To embrace failure, you have to shift how you see yourself. You can't just be someone chasing wins. You have to be someone committed to growth. Because if your identity is tied only to outcomes, failure will devastate you. But if your identity is tied to progress, then failure becomes fuel. You're not defined by the setback, you're defined by how you respond. So ask yourself, what failures in your life have you been running from instead of learning from? Where have you allowed shame, embarrassment, or fear to blind you to the lesson? Because the best of the best don't just fail more, they learn more. They don't just recover, they rebuild stronger. Every star becomes a story, and every story becomes a source of strength. And here's the bottom line, you cannot become the best of the best without walking through failure. It is the price of admission to greatness. But if you choose to embrace it, to study it, to grow from it, then failure ceases to be your enemy. It becomes your ally, it sharpens you, humbles you, and prepares you for victories bigger than you can imagine. So let me leave you with this: failure is not there to break you. It is there to make you unbreakable. Embrace it, learn from it, grow through it, and you'll find that every failure carries within it the seeds of your future greatness. We've talked about the fundamentals, we've talked about consistency, and we've talked about embracing failure. Each of these qualities will make you strong, resilient, and skilled. But to truly become the best of the best, you need something greater than personal achievement. You need purpose. Because success without purpose is empty, and greatness without impact is incomplete. The highest performers don't just strive to win for themselves, they strive to create a ripple that outlives them. Purpose is what transforms ambition into legacy. It shifts the focus from what can I get to what can I give? And paradoxically, the moment you shift your pursuit away from self-centered gain, you unlock levels of fulfillment and influence that raw ambition could never produce. Psychologically, this matters because human beings are wired for meaning. Material rewards can motivate you for a while, but they eventually lose their power. A bigger house, a nicer car, a larger bank account, none of these can satisfy the deeper hunger of the soul. Purpose is what sustains you when the novelty of achievement wears off. It gives your efforts a why. That can endure every obstacle when the road gets hard, and it will. It's purpose that keeps you moving when every other reason fails. Philosophically, purpose ties you to something larger than yourself. You realize that your gifts, your discipline, your consistency, even your failures and lessons are not just for you. They're tools meant to serve others. And the impact you make on others is the true measure of greatness. Because let's be real, no matter how much money you make or how many trophies you collect, all of it fades. What doesn't fade is the imprint you leave on people's lives. Now let's go deeper. Purpose is not about being famous. It's not about standing on a stage or having millions of followers. Purpose is about alignment. It's about discovering what you were designed to contribute and committing to deliver it with everything you have. And when you live with purpose, leadership becomes inevitable, because leadership isn't a title, it's influence. And influence comes from clarity of direction. People follow those who know where they're going. Think about the figures we remember throughout history. Martin Luther King Jr. wasn't the wealthiest man, but he carried a purpose that shifted nations. Mother Teresa wasn't the most powerful in worldly terms, but her purpose transformed millions of lives. Steve Jobs didn't just build computers. He pursued a vision of making technology accessible and elegant. Purpose magnifies impact. It multiplies the effect of your consistency and magnifies the lessons from your failures. Without purpose, even mastery feels hollow. With purpose, even ordinary actions become extraordinary. And here's where it becomes practical. To lead with purpose, you must first identify what drives you at the deepest level. What injustice angers you? What problem compels you? What vision excites you? These questions reveal the seeds of purpose. Once you find it, the challenge is to align your daily actions with that deeper vision. Because purpose is not just a lofty statement, it's a discipline. It's choosing to live each day in a way that reflects the bigger mission you've embraced. But let me also address the resistance. Some people shy away from purpose because they think it requires perfection. They think, who am I to lead? Who am I to make an impact? But the truth is, you don't need to be perfect to lead. You need to be authentic. People are inspired not by your flawlessness, but by your courage to live out your purpose despite your flaws. Leadership is not about being above others. It's about standing with others and guiding them towards something greater. Now, consider this: everything you've mastered, the fundamentals, the consistency, the lessons from failure, was never just for you. It was to prepare you to serve at a higher level. Your growth equips you to help others grow. Your resilience gives others hope. Your breakthroughs light the path for those still in the dark. That's what it means to lead with purpose and impact. It's not about climbing the ladder just to stand at the top alone. It's about reaching back and pulling others up with you. So the question becomes, what will your impact be? What legacy will you leave? Because the best of the best are not remembered simply for what they accomplished, but for how they changed the lives of others along the way. Your purpose is not just a personal compass. It's a beacon that can guide and inspire countless others. And here's the truth you need to embrace. Your purpose is bigger than your comfort, bigger than your fears, bigger than your failures. When you align your life with it, you step into a flow of energy and influence that far exceeds anything you could manufacture on your own. Purpose elevates you from success to significance and from significance to legacy. So let me close with this. Becoming the best of the best is not just about what you achieve, it's about what you give, what you build, and what you leave behind. Live with purpose, lead with impact. And when your time is done, let it be said not only that you were great, but that others became greater because you lived